The reason why I'm saying all this introduction is these are very, very high potential groups, not only for within the country, but for people outside the country who are looking at India. And in this context, I'd like to bring into mind 3 countries that are, around our periphery and which are looking at India very actively. One is the People's Republic of China. The republic that was founded by Mao Zedong. Now, I'm one of those, and I'm happy to say that now you find a lot more people like that. You had a book by Yarks, Professor Yarks, in which it talks about this explicitly, that the primacy of Western civilization is going to be challenged not by Islamic radicalism, but by Sinic civilization centered in China. In other words, the next 30 or 40 years, Western civilization's primacy is likely to be overturned by the primacy of Sinic civilization. Whether it's Korea, whether it's Japan, whether it's China, whether it's Vietnam, the Sinic people are definitely moving in a very, very fast thing. And in my own reader situation is whether it's Siberia, whether it's Central Asia, large parts of Asia at least is going to come under the control of this civilization in effective terms. So this is the point. Now, in this context, where does India fit in? I've been to China several times, and I would like to say very clearly that the Communist Party of China there is very, very clearly a nationalist party that is fully, if I may say so, committed to the goal of making China the #1 country in the world, and as a corollary, putting Sinic civilization, or what they define as their civilization, which has been converted to a large extent to civilization as per their socialist characteristics or whatever, as the prime civilization of the world. Now, where does India stand in their calculus? It depends on their perception of India. One perception is that India is 100% tied to the Western world. That is, we have already now committed to follow the Western world in whatever the West is doing. And very clearly, primacy is against the Western world. So there is a situation of rivalry between China and the Western world, which is not obvious in newspaper columns or in the communiques of foreign ministries, or in President Obama going to Beijing and President Hu going to Washington. But it's very clearly there in Africa, it's there in Central America, it's there in South America, it's there across the globe. There is a direct challenge. In this situation, if they believe that India is 100% tied to the West, it basically means there's no point in using the carrot. Because the carrot is not going to work. This country is committed. On the other hand, if they come to a feeling that India is not yet committed, it can go back to its old policy of neutrality, or at the very least, this engagement with the West can stop short of affecting the basic security interests of China, which they believe is happening regarding the Tibetan question and various other issues regarding Taiwan. If they believe that India can stop short of that, then there is an incentive for them to wield the carrot at India and to be a little more nice to India, quote unquote. Why I'm saying this is, if they believe otherwise, then a very powerful instrument is this Maoist insurgency across India. If that gets the oxygen of external support, it is going to be, it's going to be a factor several times more lethal than it is today. Now, should China decide that it is in China's interest to destabilize India, because India is now 100% committed to the Western world, there is no question of India coming back, and committed to the extent that we will support them on the Taiwan issue, we will support them on the Tibet issue, we will support them on all of the issues that they regard as very sensitive to their basic interests, then we are in for quite a very interesting ride. As I said, I am not denying all that Nandini is saying and Himanshu is saying, that the overwhelming majority of the people who are indulging in this kind of activity are people who have really gone beyond the bounds of human suffering. There's immense injustice out there. There's immense poverty and deprivation out there. For example, in West Bengal, land was essentially confiscated from people. And it is amazing that the people who are supposed to be, their minerals and other things, so little of that goes back to the people that basically is on the land. This is all a fact. That politically you have Pakistan, you have China, and third now you have Nepal, a country where Maoists have actually expanded very much. And here I'd like to talk in terms of the Gandhian ideology, because the Nepal Maoists, as soon as they came to power, They adopted an ideology which is much more in common with my friends in the Middle East and the upper class people in Mumbai than with any socialistic ideology. They live very well. They live a very, very good life. So going back to my point that Maoism has become a very profitable business for some leaders, we have to understand this overall context when we understand the situation. There is a human rights component, there is a social justice component, there is a component regarding the failure of the state and the failure of state administration, but equally there's an external component. And when this has to be managed, we have to ensure that that external component is definitely taken note of and managed in the future. Thank you.
These Maoists in India have nobody, even Chidambaram or whoever.
Excuse me, what is your question, sir?
Claimed, yeah, that's the question. Do not even claim that they have got any connection with China. The only thing the Home Secretary has said, Chinese are big smugglers. They must be getting arms from China, not as an ideological mentor, but as a smuggling den.
Okay,
These
thank
are
you.
absolutely different thing. How do you respond to that?
Thank you for that. I mean, you're perfectly right. In the old, I mean, it's not only spring thunder, but a single spark can light a prairie fire. So you have a single bit of insurgency and that can light a prairie fire across the country. It is not only Mao Zedong, but Lin Biao, that is his defense minister at that time, who had this theory about the villages and circular towns, etc. But you're paying attention to the fact that China did support that insurgency. It did support groups in the Northeast for quite a long time. And the jury is still out as to whether they're doing it even now. Because a lot of the arms, a lot of the ammunition, a lot of the communications equipment that is now being used is sourced from China. Now it could be plain business, but it could also be something different. And the Chinese Communist Party is quite a strong party with a very strong... Sir, this information is accessible.
KK Pillai has not said so. KK Pillai has said that China is a big smuggler of arms. They must have had got it. He is not too sure that whether he has got it, whether they have got it.
No, I am afraid that a lot of arms caches have been found, and the majority of these arms caches are from China. There is no question about that, and I'll be quite happy to talk to you later on and give you the details of those caches. The point I was making is very simple. The point I was making is that in case they regard it as in their national interest to do to India what has been done by Pakistan, then we'll have a severe security problem on our hands. Which is why, so far as our foreign policy is concerned, we have to evolve the foreign policy in such a way that we ensure that such traps are avoided. And I think that is the point that I've made, which is the point. Not that they're doing it now, but that they could potentially do it tomorrow, and that is something that we need to keep in mind.